Hello everyone, Stormy Strike here, and in this video I'll be giving a review on Season 1 of the new Netflix series Spirit Riding Free, inspired by the movie Spirit Stallion of the Cimarron. This is a no spoilers review, meaning I won't be giving away any spoilers about the story, the plots, etc. For those of you who have not yet watched the first 6 episodes of this show, don't worry, I'm not going to be giving away anything in this video that will spoil anything for the show. There is some story information that I will be mentioning, but nothing beyond what has already been shown in the trailers that's been released about it. For this review, I'll be breaking it down into a few different categories or topics for discussion. The topics I'll be talking about for Spirit Riding Free are the music, the animation, the characters, the writing and story, the setting, and my overall impressions and thoughts about it. Let's first talk about the music. Overall, the music for this show is okay. Nothing too special or groundbreaking. The opening theme song for this show is okay. The lyrics are a little, basic I guess, but it is a catchy little song if I do say so myself. There are a few moments in the show where the music does actually have a little hint or inspiration of the music from the original movie. For example, there is a scene where Spirit is running along with the train, and there's a few moments in the scene where the music sounds a little similar to the original movie score from Hans Zimmer. The animation. Overall, the animation of the show is also just okay. It's not great, but I also haven't found it extremely terrible to look at or anything. I think it has a decent balance because while it is not at all like the original Spirit, it is a stylized kind of animation that works for it being a lower budget production. The thing that probably bothers me the most about some of the animation is how it doesn't follow real life horse anatomy or biomechanics very well. One thing that bothered me is how the horse's teeth don't really look like horse teeth. They look much more human, and their teeth go back into their mouths where real horses don't actually have teeth. I know that's maybe a little nitpicky, but it would be nice if the animators did a little more research on horses since, well, this show is kind of focused on horses and all. The other thing that bugs me a bit is some of the biomechanics of the horses, specifically their ears. Sometimes in the show, the horse's ears are bendy or floppy, kind of like a dog's ears. But by a dog's ears, I mean like a beagle's ears or something. It's just kind of a strange animation fluke in my opinion. Some of the general animation of the horses in the show in general is a little iffy at points on the biomechanics and the physics. But I haven't found it terribly distracting or out of place for the overall style of the show, so I'm not going to go through and nitpick all of that because there's really no point. On to the characters. I want to address that I made the mistake before assuming that Lucky's father had remarried this Cora character. Oops, sorry, wrong Cora. Anyway, Cora is the woman that goes with Lucky and her father, and she is actually Lucky's aunt, not her stepmother as I had originally assumed based on the trailer. There are some things about the characters and their relationships that I find a bit strange. First off, if you didn't know and were wondering, the horses in the show do not talk, which I'm actually glad about, and I feel like so far they have been able to still pull off with the animation of the horses' reactions, showing what they're thinking and things like that, pretty well. So something that I find kind of weird is how quickly Spirit trusts Lucky. But I feel like I have a lot of problems with the first episode to begin with, because as I'll mention while I'm talking about the story, I felt that the story of the first episode is very rushed. Throughout the show, I do find it a bit strange how all of the horses seem to understand exactly everything that the humans say. I can suspend my disbelief to a point, especially for a kid's show, but there are points where I just feel like Spirit understands what Lucky is saying a little too well. A lot too well, actually. He seems to understand her like he's another human. It's a little strange. While we're talking about Spirit, there were some other things that bothered me, such as the dynamics of the wild horses. The show portrays wild horses as being horses that basically just constantly gallop around. when in reality that isn't the case. I know it's not interesting to show horses grazing or standing still or interacting with each other in a herd, but I think a short shot or two of this kind of behavior could have been a nice break from the constant running around of the wild horses. Another thing is that it is kind of implied that Spirit is the leader of his herd, yet he isn't around his herd very much at all in the show. I know the original Spirit wasn't around very much either, but that wasn't exactly by his choice, and he did a lot to try and protect his family. This new Spirit, however, just kind of does whatever he wants, and he doesn't really show any of the leadership skills that the original Spirit did. Moving on from Spirit, the other horses in the show, Chica-Linda and Boomerang, are very cute. I actually really like Chica-Linda even more than I thought I would, and Boomerang is just as adorable as I was expecting. There was a part of horse character design that was really just downright shameful, where 3 different horses had 3 different colors, but they all had the same exact white markings. I mean, come on. They couldn't have tweaked those even just a little bit? As for the main 3 girl characters, I actually like all of them okay. Throughout this first season of the show, I saw that they are trying to give them some character development. I feel like it's not quite there yet, but it's getting there. I can tell they're definitely working on trying to give these characters some pretty decent character development. However, I do feel that with Abigail's character, the writers aren't quite sure what direction they want to take her in yet. Alright, now let's go over the writing and the story. So I have to first say, I am sorry if I am sounding overly critical about the writing of the show. I have been studying and writing screenplays a lot in college recently, and it has made me look at script writing much more critically than I used to. The plots of this show are pretty basic, but that is expected, I suppose, for a show that is aimed towards kids. Also, this show is supposedly aimed towards young girls around the age of 12 to 13. I feel like this show was made for even a younger audience, though, probably closer to the age of 8. This is just based in how I feel the show is written. In some of the episodes of Season 1 of this show, especially the very first 1 or 2, I found a lot of the dialogue to be pretty predictable, cliché, and felt very recycled from other media. Granted, in later episodes, I didn't get this sense as much. There were also points early on in this season where I felt like a lot of the plot points and dialogue just moved way too quickly, making it feel very rushed, unnatural, and just trying to drive the story and morals into the audience. I know, again, the show is aimed towards kids, and a lot of times people just assume that kids have short attention spans or something, and I can understand why they want to maybe move things along a little quicker for that. But there was one point, like in the first episode, where I just felt like, wow, this is happening all way too fast. Even for, I feel like, little kids, this dialogue and story and plot points is just moving way, way too quickly. There was also a lot of on-the-nose dialogue, and there's a lot of resolutions to conflicts that just feel like too easy and simple. Again, I know, this is supposed to be a kid's show, but there were just points where I felt that even for a kid's show, it was just not written very well. I'm sorry, I hate to say it, and I'm not trying to act like a snob or anything like that. And I also don't know what exact parameters the writers were put under from like the producers and executives of this show, but I just feel like it could have definitely been done better in the sense of writing and some of the story. But that being said, the stories for some of the episodes I felt were fairly decent, and while they were, of course, kind of predictable and not super, like, wow, out there, groundbreaking or anything, they were kind of a little bit different and not, like, exactly like other shows I've seen. They had their kind of own little charm to them, I guess. Setting. My absolute biggest problem with this show is the setting. The exact time period of this show isn't really defined, and the story and production design only make it more confusing on what exact time period it's supposed to take place in. Some of the aspects of the story and setting make it out to be set like in an older time period of the West. But then there are other aspects that point it towards being a modern day setting, kind of more like shows like Horseland. It's honestly really, really confusing. This show really doesn't know what time period it wants to be in, and it shows this throughout the design in the story. Things like the clothing and hairstyles of many of the characters are clearly more modern representations. Yet then there's other things like the lack of technology that make it seem like it's set in a long ways in the past. The story itself is very jumbled in my opinion. Sometimes the story makes it seem like they are in another century, yet the way that the main characters act and the social structures that appear seem much more modern to me. I just seriously don't even know what to think about this, as it is just very confusing, and I feel like even the people that worked on this show don't even know what time period it's really supposed to be set in. The setting of a story can actually be very important, and I feel like Spirit Riding Free doesn't really take that into account, making it a big problem for the audience to understand the circumstances of the story. So if I had to say what's my biggest problem with the show, I'd honestly say it's the setting, the time period. What exactly is this time period? It's never really clearly defined, and even if it is defined, it still doesn't make sense, I feel like. Even if they say, oh, it's set in the old West days, well then why does the clothing and the hairstyles and like different aspects of design look so modern? And then if they say, well, it's set a little bit more modern times, maybe before like cell phones and such. Well, if that's the case, then why is there still like a lot of outdated technology? And again, the designs, there's a lot of designs that are a little bit too old style West and not enough modern, and it's very confusing. I honestly just don't know what to think of this show in the terms of its setting. Lastly, let me give you my overall impressions and thoughts about Spirit Riding Free. There are some things about this show that bug me, unsurprisingly, including inaccurate horse-related information, such as a moment in the show when a body brush is referred to as a currycomb. I wanted to scream at the TV at that point because I'm just like, oh my gosh, no, that's clearly a body brush. That is not at all a currycomb. Also, the incorrect riding positions and position of the cinch on the horse is very, very irritating. You think that maybe finally an animated horse show could actually get the tack right. However, overall, I think this show is really cute. It is clearly a kid's show, and it should not be held up to the standard of the original Spirit Stallion of the Cimarron movie. I thought it was interesting, actually, how there are several little references in the show that allude to the original Spirit movie. I won't go through them in this video right now, but perhaps I will in another video later on down the line. This show did have some nice, funny moments that even I was laughing at. There were some scenes that I found cute and enjoyable and even relatable, such as a scene where Lucky is trying to mount Spirit from the ground. I don't know why, but that was like one of the scenes that stood out to me as being kind of a little bit more realistic and slower paced, and was kind of more what I think the show should aim for in the sense of story and dialogue and things like that. I was originally worried that this show was going to be painful to watch, which, I'm sorry to say, is how I feel every time I try to watch the show The Lion Guard. It's just a show I can't seem to get through watching even one single full episode of for some reason. However, with Spirit Riding Free, on the other hand, I enjoyed watching it quite a lot. It was a nice show to just watch and relax to. While watching Spirit Riding Free, I never felt once like, oh, I wish this was over already, or, oh, I'm getting bored of this, or anything like that. I was actually pretty entertained the whole time while I was watching it. While this show might not be what us older folks who grew up on the original movie may have wanted, I think this show is really cute and is overall really decent. I know if I was a kid when this show came out, I probably would have really enjoyed it, possibly as much as I enjoyed shows like Horseland. While it's not perfect, I think that Spirit Riding Free will inspire a sense of imagination and adventure for kids, and of course instills different morals to them. After watching the show, I am even more excited about the upcoming merchandise, and I can't wait to buy some of it, especially after getting to know and understand the characters of the show a bit more. If you would like to see, I have done several videos before about the Spirit Riding Free merchandise. You can check those out at the end of this video, and I will also put links to them down in the description below. The next season of Spirit Riding Free will be coming to Netflix in fall of 2017. I'm actually really looking forward to it. Netflix released a short trailer for Season 2, and I think it looks fairly promising. That's all for this video, but now I have a question for you guys. If you also watched Spirit Riding Free, what did you think of it, and who is your favorite character in it? If you haven't watched Spirit Riding Free yet, do you plan on checking it out or watching it when you get the chance? Let me know in the comment section down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you all have a fantastic day. Go out there and have an adventure of some sort. Alright guys, I'll see you in the next video. Bye everyone!